Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting for Lansdale Borough Council for Wednesday, May 3rd to order. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silent meditation, please? Roll call, please.
Leon Angeliquio. Here. Denton Burnell.
Present.
Carrie Hawkins Charlton.
Present.
Rich DiGregorio Jr.
Here.
Mary Fuller.
Here.
Jack Hansen.
Here.
Stephen Malagari.
Present.
Jason Van Deen.
Here.
Tom Work.
Here.
Mayor G. Andrew Zeckley.
Here. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We'll get right into our committee reports. Taking us out, Admin and Finance, Councilman Van Deen.
Thank you, Mr. President. After approving our minutes, we got right into the financial reports. Operating budget is trending normally for this time of year. We will start to see some money coming out of the capital fund with projects such as the Memorial Park Grandstand renovation that has just begun, potential purchase of some more electric meters, and some payments for the 2016 the Crestview Road project coming up. Under business items, we did discuss the anti-gerrymandering resolution that you should have all received a copy of through email or Dropbox, and we did recommend as a committee to support that resolution and to ask for council support in 2 weeks. Under old business, we found for our penalty for changing our liability and property insurance early would be a 10% of the remaining fee. So if we did a 6-month withdrawal or 6-month early termination or change, it would be about a $12,500 penalty. With potential savings of at least $26,000 just from our current workers' comp and health insurance savings we could realize on that, we were being informed that they're going to go ahead and ask for the full estimate to change our property and liability carriers, what the cost, what we could save if we did change either now or maybe we wait till the end of the year. But in either case, it's good to get that competitive look. Under Act 172, again, there's more questions raised. We're still looking at hopefully a county-wide solution. One of the things we learned tonight is that if we have residents that serve fire or ambulance in other communities, they would also be eligible for any benefit we enacted, and likewise anyone that served in the borough but didn't reside here, they would so if they served on Fairmount Fire Company but didn't reside in Lansdale, they would have to look to their community for the benefit. They wouldn't get it from Lansdale. So that's why they're trying to steer this to a more county-wide solution. So we are going to push the county a little bit and see if we can get some answers from them on timing of when they might have a solution there. We were informed that the Madison Street widening bid should be ready to go out in about 2 weeks and be ready to award potentially by July, hopefully potentially in June if get all the ducks in a row in time. And then the last item under business was the single hauler trash removal. We've gotten a lot of information on that and the bids. The low bidder came in, essentially it would be about $19.63 per month, which would cover the trash removal, recycling removal, all the borough trash that we take care of now, the cans on Main Street, cardboard bins for events, dumpsters as needed. toters, 95-gallon toters for both trash and recycling, 1 time a week pickup, once a month yard waste, and once a month bulk item removal. And again, that came in at $19.63 a month per residential unit. However, the recommendation at this time is to reject all the bids. As we've learned, we're being told that each of them has a fatal defect in it. So the committee did vote to recommend we reject all the bids at this time. You know, and then we'd like to, I guess, get into a discussion about how to proceed from there. So whether we recommend, you know, putting it right back out to bid, and hopefully we can get bids that are not defective, you know, would be, I think, in the borough's best interest, but again, that would be a council decision. So so that's where that stands, and we had some representation from the Mascara organization, I guess, that gave some input. So we'll see that in 2 weeks. Under new business, we talked about parking rates at the 9th Street lot. With the SEPTA garage opening up, I guess last week, they are free for right now, but coming in June, they will be charging, I guess, $2 a day for the parking garage, $1.25 a day for all their ground lots. So at this time, the borough, who controls a parking lot over at across from Pembroke Station, and at the 9th Street lot, we need to make a decision on setting the rates for those 2 lots. That falls under the borough council. The recommendation at this time is $1.25 a spot. It won't be coming up for vote this month, but it should be up for a vote in June. Wireless communication facilities, we got some information on that from Mr. Ernst. I think that we'll get more information on that from Code. Also, application to PennDOT for some signal changes here at Broad Street as part of the Liberty Trail project. That will also be coming through Code? No? Okay. With the trail coming out to Broad Street here, one of the things we'll have to do to potentially make any changes to that signal is approach PennDOT. And this is real early in that process, but it's just an information item that we're going to be looking. We don't know what those signal changes might be yet, but we need to get that process started. And then we talked about the proposal for the chief of police search, and we will get more information on that from the Public Safety Committee. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dam. Do I have any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. With this number, and I understand and I respect the recommendation to reject all bids on the single trash hauler, but right now we're looking at the bids we had at about $19.63 a month per residence. Is that correct?
Per residential unit, yep.
Yes. Okay. Now, would that be paid for in our tax dollars as we pay our taxes, or will we pay that individually each month or each quarter?
That's a detail to work out if we decide to go that route.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at that. And the other thing, and it's another detail to work out, I read through the proposals that were sent to us, but I want to understand it as best I can, that if a resident had a problem with a particular trash hauler, that would take their ability away from them to eliminate the trash hauler and go to someone else. But what would the borough be able to do for the resident if the particular resident or many residents had a problem?
That's a good question. One of the things that I think right away when you go to a single hauler is a lot of those problems are eliminated because you're picking up at every house. So there's no reason to miss trash unless it's not out. You're not speeding up and down alleys because you're stopping at every location. So there's no, the safety factor is a lot better. As far as the way they treat the cans, I don't know what the borough's
Well, there's remedy.
resolve would be there.
Is there? I'm assuming there's remedy language in the contract. I don't have it memorized. Chris or Sean, I don't know.
Yes, there would be remedy language in the contract, but beyond that, the borough would work out that there would be a contact with that single hauler company that was contracted with, and most of the times it's handled. That's been my experience in other municipalities. But there's a consistent contact. They have one person designated and then one person on borough staff. Then if not, then it comes to my attention, and then I would write a default letter. But I've actually never seen it get to that in other municipalities.
Okay, well, thank you. The only other thing I have to ask about it is, when I was reading it, with all the proposals, it was picking up yard waste once a month. Today, I'm dealing with a hauler that I can do it every week. I'm just wondering, why did we go to once a month on that question?
Do they just throw it in with the regular trash?
Yes.
Yeah, that's technically they shouldn't be doing that. Technically, it should be getting composted, and that's what this would allow.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and the other thing that was mentioned in the meeting, that $19.63 price, we are realizing a savings to the borough for all the trash pickup that the borough is responsible for paying now. So there's a kind of a greater benefit that is, we haven't broken that out yet. So I think we're going to ask the borough to kind of look at what we spend on trash each year. So that'll be something we'll save in the budget going forward, and will come up in budget talks in future years if we elect to go this route.
And just details will come as we go through this discussion.
So I guess the question then is, what happens next? Is that too loaded of a question? I mean, will we be putting this out or will that be decided later, since we're going to reject all the bids?
So if it were up to me, after we rejected all the bids, I would ask that we put it right back out to bid and hope we can get these bids to be remedied and, make sure they're all qualified, and then we can make a real decision.
So that will be the next thing for us. If we do vote to reject all the bids in 2 weeks, then our next move as a full council would be to vote to put it out to bid again.
I think, but of course, obviously only if there's enough interest to pursue that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point for consideration. And I think if we're going to do that, we shouldn't wait too long. We've obviously invested quite a bit of money in this process already. We kind of know what the range is, the low end being a 19 and the high end whatever it was, but the low end being what it was. So I think people have that in their mind. I don't know that we could have any great expectation that number is going to change very much. So if people think that number is a good number, that's what I think we should be taking into consideration in terms of whether we put this back out for bid or not. But I think if we're going to do it, we should do it. When we vote to reject, we should also very quickly thereafter say reauthorize the bidding process to continue. So, but obviously this whole group has to make that decision. So,
Actually, I have a question. Was there a commonality of the defects in the responses? A common denominator?
Yes, there was a common denominator in the defects, but of course the municipality reserves the right to reject bids for any reason. Being that I did not want to get into having 4 lawyers for 4 trash fitters here all arguing in front of council, they had an opportunity to review each other's bids. They made submissions. Our office reviewed them. And we determined, after looking at the case law and the bids, that each of them were fatally defective. So therefore, we thought if council decides to go out again, rather than get into a litigious legal battle here on the open floor, what we would do is have a pre-bid meeting. And at the pre-bid meeting, go over ad nauseum hypothetical situations where people may have forgot to cross a T or dot an I to ensure, to the best of our ability, you never know, that it does not happen again, and that there would be a couple responsive bids at the next submission.
So I'm sorry. So are we saying that should we reject this round of bids and there soon after put out a call for new bids? Is that saying that we definitely, is the implication that we are leaning toward single hauler? I mean, I kind of thought the point of this round was to get an idea in price.
So I would suggest we maybe put a motion on the agenda after the vote whether or not we reject all bids, and put it out there to put it right back out to bid, and if that vote passes, then
Because
we have
in
an idea of
also too, if in fact council does want to go single hauler, council is also going to have to enact an ordinance to do that. We have a draft ordinance in form if council wants to do that, but that would go hand in hand with awarding the bid if that's what council eventually did. So.
Anyone else on this topic? Okay, thank you very much. We will move on. Code Enforcement and Land Planning, Councilman Angeliquio.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a well-attended meeting tonight. We voted to approve our minutes. We had a lot of topical information. With summer coming up, there's a lot of commonality in the work and improvements that people do. Spoke a little bit about swimming pools, rules and regulations, whether or not a permit is required. There is a plethora of information as far as swimming pools, what requires a permit, what doesn't, electricity, depth of pools, fences, walkways, locking gates, a lot of items that John's office will be happy to discuss with you should you decide at this point you want to install a pool. Likewise with sidewalks and walkways on property. We talked about, a little bit of the code requirements for sidewalks, what constitutes a tripping hazard, safety, how we go about identifying sidewalks that are deficient, and some of the perils that we face when we start to go into neighborhoods to look at a single property. As John often says, you can't go in with blinders. You can't look at a single property. When you look at one, you look at the neighbor, you look at the neighbor, and you look at the neighbor, and the next thing you know, you have a whole neighborhood that starts to make phone calls to the 9 people sitting up here to find out why all of a sudden they have a big bill to do sidewalks. Walkways on property are not governed by this body. What you do on your property that constitutes landscaping is for your pleasure, however you want to do it. We spoke a little bit about solar power, constantly evolving technology in solar. A lot of people ask, are we allowed to? Because oftentimes you get phone calls and you'll be asked to switch your power supplier, which we don't have the ability to shop in the borough, but you do have the ability to utilize solar power on your property. Obviously, there's guidelines, rules, regulations. We're putting some things together, and at some point in the future, we will have an informational gathering that will allow people to look at some of the technology and what is required and the safety requirements. I know when we talk about solar, there are a lot of things we don't think of. Andy Krause has a lot of things that he thinks about when he sees solar that the common homeowner might not think about from a safety standpoint. These are some upcoming things. Habitat for Humanity, critical repair application period. This is a great project. If anybody knows of any homes or families who may need some assistance making some repairs to their homes, the application period is from May 1st until June 15th. This can be a godsend for some families who have some work that needs to be done on their homes and just can't quite afford it. There is help for you out there. So if you know anybody get them to fill out the application, see if we can give them a little bit of a hand. We talked a little bit about what's been going on with the Planning Commission. The Equus project, as a lot of people are aware, most people are aware, we approved the moving forward of the project in Madison Lot. There are no hard dates yet as far as start of construction. Still a little bit in the planning phase for that. We spoke a little bit about 490 Cypress. 2 lots, kind of an odd situation there, how the lots are oriented. The owners are going to come before the planning, as a matter of fact, not even the zoning hearing board, to re-subdivide the property. That makes a little more sense for the way it's laid out now. This will be coming up in the future. We spoke about 32 East Blaine Street. I don't know if everybody remembers, this has been an ongoing project for probably the last 3 to 4 years or so. It's had its stalled moments, it's had its problems. Hopefully the owners and of that property will be bringing something forward to council that meets the requirements of the borough. Old business, excuse me. We're looking at the revision of wireless communications and a right-of-way ordinance. Currently, there are third-party providers that are putting things like cell phone repeaters, antennas, and whatnot. They want to be able to put these things on borough-owned poles. And without any kind of guidelines, the borough really doesn't have a say as of yet. We don't have a position of negotiation with these companies. So we want to put something together that allows the borough to have a little bit of control, a little bit of forewarning that if there are people working on our poles or utilizing our poles, what position are we in? What kind of negotiating position do we have for possible revenue generation, safety requirements, something as simple as damage of a borough asset? We need to have a little bit of control with that, so we'll be moving forward with that. Medical marijuana ordinance. Last month we approved a motion to prepare and advertise. We're continuing forward with that. Sean, is that just about ready to be advertised? So you'll be seeing that in your, as advertised, and, it's... So it's an ongoing process, and we are in it. New business, zoning hearing board is going to hear from the owners of 490 Cypress, so we'll be hearing about that a little later on. SEPTA paving project, kind of an interesting project. SEPTA will be repaving the parking lot for the train station here in Lansdale. It's not just a skin and a hot top. This is a total gut and redo. Milling, subsurface, and then blacktop. It's going to be a long process, a noisy process, and for those that live anywhere in the area or within earshot, the work will be performed from 7 p.m. until 4 a.m. Should make for some interesting phone calls to the borough. Good luck with that, Jake. There is a lot of common sense to that process. Doing the work in the lot when it is least occupied. SEPTA will notify those that live within, a certain area that this project will be upcoming. It's kind of the final phase of the parking garage. New parking lot, new parking garage, a nice facelift on the station itself. I'm not sure SEPTA can do anything else at that station. However, if you live in the middle of town or within earshot of some of that machinery, it should be fairly interesting. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Angelico. Any questions for code enforcement? Anybody? Actually, remind me the time frame we're talking about on that.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries.
The paving will be starting this Monday, and it'll be Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then it will pick up again, if need be, the following Monday through to the end of the week, for Friday. So the possibility exists for 2 weeks, weather permitting. Hopefully the weather is good, and they'll be able to expedite the process and get it done without too much, I don't want to call it inconvenience, but too much upheaval in that neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Oh, yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
With the SEPTA parking, the project, will they be staging on Madison parking lot where our cars? In other words, they're going to have a lot of equipment over here. Where they're going to be staging their equipment? Are they going to be not inconvenience our Madison parking lot with our customers and residents?
Our understanding is they will be staging, on their own property. Okay, at most, it will go over into the area that is immediately adjacent to the bridge that they're already using as a laydown area. So, that's our understanding right now.
Thanks, Jake. I just want to make sure we have everything clear. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much. Moving on, Communications Commission, Councilwoman Hawkins-Sharp.
Thank you, Mr. President. We did not meet last month, so my little 2 cents will be short, but I actually wanted to take a moment to say thank you to Andy Kraus and his team over at the Electric Department. We had a great Civics 101 just a few weeks ago in April with a behind-the-scenes tour, and I know a lot of the residents were really excited about it, so thank you to everyone at your team. We're looking forward to Dan and his team next month, May 25th. If anyone up here would like to join us, we'll be doing a wastewater treatment tour. And I know a lot of the residents are really looking forward to it, so it should probably be a sellout. So if anybody wants more information, just email Tracy at tflynn@lansdale.org. Thanks so much.
Dan looks like he's excited too.
I just want to say, Mr. President, the tour of the wastewater treatment plant doesn't sound very appealing, but take the tour. You'll be amazed. Dan does a wonderful job over there. His crew takes care of things, and they will show you just how it's taken care of. It doesn't smell like you think it would. It's really nice.
I was just going to say that's why we chose May, right?
The electric company put on the pole top rescue or the high, I don't know what they call it, but that was pretty exciting. So you're gonna have to figure out how to top that. Do some rescue stuff.
Wow. All right. Any questions for ComCom? Any questions for ComCom? All right. Thank you. And yes, thank you, Andy, very much. Sorry I couldn't make that one, but I heard it was fantastic. So good job. All right. Economic Development, Councilman Van Dam.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not a whole bunch to report. We did talk about Business of the Month and how we can try to keep it a little more consistent. Unfortunately, there are situations that come up that are beyond our control, and we end up missing a month now and then. But it's a great thing for the borough and for the business community, so we're going to try to keep that as consistent as possible. That being said, this month in 2 weeks, Mr. Richard Strom will be presenting Business of the Month to a long-time business that's got a recent new twist. So if you want to find out who that's going to be, come back in 2 weeks and see Richard's presentation. Other than that, really the only other piece of information was that the Economic Development Task Force is not going to be meeting every month anymore. We've gotten a lot of information, and ultimately what came out of that is that the borough should kind of focus maybe on some marketing for the borough and the business community. So that's what we're focusing on at this point, and we'll be handling that primarily through the Economic Development Committee going forward, with the ability to call that task force back in if need be. So I thank everybody that helped out with that, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for EDC? All right. Moving right along, Electric Committee, Councilman DeGregorio.
Thank you, Mr. President. The minutes were approved tonight. Committee business items. First was the REX meters. The Department is ready to order 2,000 more REX meters. We started with 2,000 and we have 300 left. These meters have an 8-week lead time, and in order to complete the 3/4 of our meter department, we need to bring a motion next month, which is $262,000. One feature we were talking about with Andy tonight is the meter itself. It's a programmer meter, and it has a safety function. For example, the temperature. We're talking about when the meter hits 185 degrees Fahrenheit, the meter shuts off. A lot of times when in a meter can, there's top and bottom jaws, and with the wear and tear of a meter, that can cause a problem or a fire. With these meters, they have a set temperature on there, and if there's any kind of indication with the temperature change like that, it'll automatically shut off, and then a resident would obviously call the borough and say, my power's out. The borough will come out and investigate it and determine what the situation is. So that's just one little feature that we were talking about tonight about how this meter could be very effective in our borough. So I think it's a great investment for us, and also I think it's a good safety aspect that the borough can use as a tool to help the residents. Next would be the LED meter kickoff. It was in Eagleville. It was a big showing for all the municipalities to kick off about getting started with the LED lights in the communities. The borough will be starting soon with installing our own lights soon in this coming summer. Next would be, we were talking about the delivery of the voltage regulators. Next week, we will have a delivery of 3 34,000 voltage regulators, replacing the aged equipment in our main substation. They'll be most likely installed in this coming June. Next would be the legislator event on May 9th. Jake and Andy will be attending a meeting in Harrisburg to explain the benefits of public power to our legislators. Please let them know that you're interested in attending. That any council is more welcome to go. Just contact Andy or Jake if you'd like to go on that trip. Big thing about this was if the ECU has control of the money, basically they're saying that they're proposing about restricting our money. We can't move our electric money to into our assets, into our general fund. So this would not be a bad thing for municipalities like all the boroughs, because we would be restricted and we would have to do other alternatives. The borough would have to come up with other revenue ideas if we don't have the money coming from the electric. So bringing this whole discussion out, and Jake and Andy going out there, I think it's really important they stress how important that our electric is important for all the boroughs, how we use that as a revenue tool to help our other expenditures in our borough. So, and with there's some legislative stuff coming out that, like I said, they're trying to stop it ahead of time before it really starts moving. So please contact your Bob Gotcho and Senator Mensch about that situation too. Finally, we were talking about the wireless communications with we talked about in code, about the right-of-way ordinance. And finally, Department Operations, the committee talked about how they were working with the Public Works with the Andale, with the Liberty Trail project. And also the department will be hosting a CPR pole rescue training class later this month. Well, the coolest thing about that, they're going to bring other municipalities in, and we're actually having a whole safety class in our borough. So it's a nice, because the borough can actually network to other municipalities and also work on safety, CPR, and pole training. And that is my report for tonight.
Thank you very much. Any questions for electric? All right, thank you very much. Moving right on, Library Committee, Vice President Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I stumbled through announcing last month, our meeting for May was rescheduled for next Monday, May 8th, beginning at 6, not 6:30. So if you are so inclined to join us, that's when the committee will be meeting. So I don't have a report other than to remind everyone that this week it's Library Fundraising Week at Captain Chucky's Crab Cake Company, 3 locations. You should all have a form. 15% of the total purchase goes to, if you say you're supporting the library, 15% of the total purchase, which includes gift certificates, will come back to the library. So if you're so inclined sometime this week up until May 6th, please stop by Captain Chucky's and tell them you'd like to support the library.
Thank you very much. Want to keep going?
Sure.
All right. Parks
keep
and Rec.
my mic on.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay, so tonight under Parks and Rec, we discussed an old request that had come in. I brought forward last month. There was a woman, there was some discussion as to whether or not we should allow people to be added under family memberships, even if they weren't part of the immediate family. We have been advised, we meaning the committee and the department, have been recommended by our solicitor that we don't entertain that we deny that request, just because we cannot legally go case by case with something like that. We'd have to revise our whole policy. So we trust our solicitor is steering us in the right direction, so we unanimously decided we would deny that request. We did have a couple more requests come forward, but they're just in the preliminary and vetting stages, so I'll bring those forward as necessary. Under programs, we had a successful gardener's class. That was, the topic was lavender. It was well attended. That was last week, so we'll look to schedule some more classes in the fall. Our bicycle safety program is scheduled for this Saturday, May 6th. I will mention that we do have a rain date for that program, just in case. If the forecast holds as predicted, we may need to look into that. This event happens at Whites Road Park, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's in conjunction with Peddler Bike Shop and, of course, Lansdale Police. In addition to Parks and Rec, all the kids are given helmets. All bikes get registered to help the police in recovering perhaps a stolen bike. That's the importance of registering them. Bikes are checked for safety as well, and kids, are instructed to ride safely. Parks and Rec will be on hand at First Friday, knock on wood. This Friday night should promote their programming. We will hold the first. Did you want me to talk more about First Friday now? Is that okay? Well, since the mic's here, I'll do it now. I was going to wait till the end. So First Friday is this Friday, we hope. The weather forecast is looking iffy at best, but I understand that their predictions are there could be a break in the weather late afternoon and clear out for tonight, for the night. We'll, as we always do, watch the weather reports closely, make the best decision we can in as timely a fashion as we can. The problem, of course, is every time Discover Lansdale has to cancel a First Friday, it loses money. So we try to control how much money is lost. And sometimes we make the decision earlier in the day than we would like, but that's because once some of these, for instance, bands start traveling, we're on the hook for 100% of the money. Best case scenario, we only pay 50%. So we try to limit our losses and cancel what we can that we don't have to pay for, which is why sometimes we'll cancel the event at 1 when it's pouring, and at 6 o'clock the sun's out and people say, why was that canceled? That's why it was canceled. This year, I will say, I and Discover Lansdale have been approached by Scott Rudich at Round Guys Brewery. He has, we're working together to see if on months that the weather will not, we can't have bands performing outside, he is suggesting we move the band inside to his new location at the Underground. So we could possibly do that as a trial thing this First Friday coming up. Hopefully not. We hope it'll all go as planned, because if it all goes as planned, we're celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Get your sombreros, your new Discover Lansdale Business Directory. We'll have a bungee trampoline. Activity out there. We'll have the zip line going on. We'll have the bands. We also have a new beer garden that we're adding on Madison Street at Madison and Main. Prison Brewery is going to sell food and introduce people to their beer and set up some family games in that area as well. Since they are at Madison and Main, some of you First Friday aficionados may be wondering, well, what's happening to the cars that used to be there? Well, I'll tell you. The cars will be moving over to the West Main parking lot. I lovingly refer to that as the Boys and Girls Club parking lot. So the Cruisin' Car Show will be over there. So this month, we plan to, weather permitting, have activities at Main and Madison, certainly in Railroad Plaza with the usual vendors, DJ, and photo booth. We will have the bungee jumping extravaganza on Green Street, and North and Southwood music on the south side with vendors and beer from Round Guys, zip line on the north side. So we have a pretty thank you to the police in advance for all their help. And everybody who's involved in helping make that activity successful. So, Pete, I'm going to throw you under the bus when I hear about how long my report was. So that's the first Friday piece. I'll get back to Parks and Rec programming specifically. On the 20th of May, there's a movie in the park. It's the first one of the season. Yes, that is a Saturday as opposed to a Friday. It will begin at 8:15 or dusk, whichever comes first. When it gets dark, the movie will be Finding Dory. Again, if the weather does not hold out for an outdoor movie, the rain date will be the next day, Sunday, 5/21. Pool registrations are being handled now via mail, but you can come in to visit Parks and Rec and sign up for your pool registrations Saturday, May 13th, Saturday, May 20th from 10 to 2. Remember, we're moving to a new system this year. Everybody will need new cards because we're going to the swipe system. Next year, though, you'll be able to just easily renew online, and your card can be activated without any in-person visits. The pools Whites Road Park Pool will open on May 27th, which is the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend, and be open that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and continue to be open weekends until school closes. I believe that date is June 12th. That will be the date then that 4th Street Pool opens as well. The Whites Road Concert Series is getting ready to kick off on May 30th. The first concert, as is usual, the North Penn Jazz Ensemble. So on Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock, bring your favorite chair, bring your cooler and maybe some snacks, and start enjoying Tuesday nights at Whites Road Park. The Festival of the Arts, the juror was in to review all the art applicants, and she has done that job. Summer staff is, we have a full complement now, getting ready to kick off the summer season. Newsletter is being printed, and hopefully we'll have some to hand out on First Fridays, but you'll be receiving them in the mail as well. Maintenance activities are moving along as usual for this time of year, which is mostly a concentration in mowing, preparing flower beds, ball fields, and of course, swimming pools. There is a group of volunteers from Keystone Youth Fellowship coming in, again, hopefully weather permitting, this Saturday to help clean up and prepare beds at Stony Creek and Memorial Park. There will be, there's geotesting that's going to be done in the footprint of the skate park over at 4th Street. And they'll be looking to define the water tables and see kind of what's under there to see. Of course, that will help us move forward with that project. We're also continuing to work on the amphitheater lighting project. We're hoping that lighting is ready by the first concert on May 30th. If not, it will be soon after that, and our thanks to the electric department and all the other departments who are helping complete that project. Under old business, we got an update on the Liberty Bell Trail. Grace Industry has was selected as the contractor, thank you, for building the first leg of the trail, which is over at the Andale Green property. That is underway. They're planning to mobilize next week. They're starting with tree removals, grading, and fencing, and that leg should move fairly quickly. In fact, I think the specific molten piece that he's responsible for has begun, correct? Did they, the molten part? Yep. Thank you. Memorial Park Grandstand project. The pre-construction meeting was last week. Currently, the contractor's on site removing all the aluminum seating, and they're cleaning and painting all the brackets and hardware for the seating. So, as Jason mentioned, we'll start to see a drawdown on some of the capital funds as it relates to this particular project. As far as the skate park goes, there is a short update. As I just talked about the geotesting, there will be test borings. We have been, or Carl has been, his department, been collecting RFPs and RFQs from other communities for us to take a look at. The quandary here is, do you put out an RFP or an RFQ for a design build, or is it two separate pieces? You select one contractor to design and another to build. So we're in the research stages of that to see what other, and not even just necessarily Pennsylvania communities. Carl has gathered information from skate parks that were built in Massachusetts, Ontario, both North and South Carolina. So we will keep you posted as we move forward in making this decision. I also brought up the subject now that the Equus project has moved a step forward. Carl and I will be gathering information and going to, whether it be Equus or the parking authority, to make sure we do what we can to get matching money for the grant for the skate park. So that's in our sights. We had no new business, and under public comment, we received one high compliment from a resident who attended the egg hunt for the first time this year and couldn't say enough about how well organized and smooth and wonderful that event was. And then we also had a resident bring some issues to our attention, one being the porta potties are needed over at Moyer Road. So that will happen. We usually do that as activity begins over there, we meaning Parks and Rec. We will continue discussion on that and as to whether we feel Parks and Rec should have portable facilities year-round or just during activity areas. We'll revisit that later. And there was an issue with apparently motorcyclists using the park as a motorcycle track. So we'll check into that. And that is my report.
I'm not sure you can throw Pete under the bus for all that.
Okay. Just
Any questions for Parks
that'll
and
make
Rec?
the announcement
Yes, I
part
do.
shorter.
All right. Mr. DiGregorio, go for it.
Yes, I got one request. Wissahickon Park, there's a trash can by Main Street where the Park and Rec building is. Is it possible at the end of the trail having another trash can at the end of the trail on Norway at the end. There's no trash can there, and I know a couple people approached me about having a trash can there at the corner right there.
Okay.
Please.
Can look into that,
I can
right?
address that just a little bit. We removed the trash can from the Norway end of it because people were putting animal waste in there, and in the summertime, it really, really smelled bad. That's why that trash can was removed.
I'd like to have the request trash can back, please. That's all. Thank you.
Arm wrestling on Knapp Road.
That's
I love
right.
it. Yeah. All right.
Maybe we
It's a
could
good thing you
compromise.
didn't ride with me
Gentlemen, maybe
tonight.
we could compromise and, not put it in the exact location, but at least add an additional trash can somewhere.
All right. That was fun. Any other comments for Parks and Rec? All right. Thank you very much. Public Safety, Councilman Work.
Thank you, Mr. President. Busy night in public safety, but Pete, I'll help you out. I'll make up for it here. The committee had a quick follow-up discussion with some residents of the 300 block of East 2nd Street regarding a traffic concern. In short, it's a narrow street, lots of cars, lots of traffic, lots of parking. Bottom line is that we're going to do a traffic study. So stay tuned. I will be back in touch. Under new business, the Special Events Committee gave the thumbs up for, and we as a committee are recommending approval for the following events. The Memorial Day Parade to be held on May 29th, the Fairmount Fire Company Car Show to be held on June 17th, and Oktoberfest to be held in Whites Road Park on October 14th. And my understanding is that lederhosen will not be tolerated this year.
It's directed at you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
I'm just reporting what we talked about in the meeting. I promise. We also are recommending approval of 2 handicap parking requests. Yes, I said approval. One at 120 East 5th Street and the other at 1005 Poplar Street. Both these recommendations are based on need. And also, and that was based on a visit by Acting Chief Cromdyke. There is also no hardship to the neighborhood believed from a parking perspective if we approve both of those. So again, we are recommending approval for both those requests. We had a brief discussion about the Liberty Bell Trail relative to its intersection with South Broad Street. And Acting Chief Cromdyke, correct me if I'm wrong on this. We need to do a traffic study or an engineering study of the intersection here at Vine and Broad relative to that crossing. But in order to do that, we have to pass a resolution which essentially sends a notice of intent to PennDOT. And that is our way as a council of saying, PennDOT, we're on board with this. We're okay with this. So your state tax dollars at work. And then lastly, we did have a brief discussion about the chief selection process. Certainly we did not make any decisions. However, we did review and are recommending for approval as a first step to employ a group or a company called Safe City, which is the company that does the testing, the assessment testing, as we proceed to replace Chief McDyer. So again, we are recommending, and that'll come before full council for approval later in the month. So that is the extent of the discussion over the chief selection process. Again, stay tuned. There'll be further discussion on that. All right, that ends my report.
Well done. Any questions for public safety? Yes,
So did we look at other companies too, or is Safe City Solutions our only choice, or did we put out a request for?
I think at this point we've only looked at Safe City. Is that correct, Jake? So, I mean, we certainly could Yeah. Was there another? There was another one, but they ended
Yes,
up being
there-
part of Safe City, as I recall.
Yes, to answer your question, thank you, Mr. President. There was thought of another company. We did look into that company. However, we found out that that the individual that was involved with that company, in effect, is actually working for Safe Solutions. So while they have done, I guess, some work in testing and the like, okay, I'm not saying that they're merged or anything like that, okay, but, in effect, they are working together now. So, that's where that's how we arrived at Safe City Solutions for the present.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's take it home. Public Works, Councilman Maligari.
Thank you, Mr. President. After approving our minutes, we jumped right into our business items, starting with the 2016 roadway and utility rehabilitation project. That's Crestview, Durstein, and the Force Main. Nothing currently is going on Crestview. Residents will notice that the street has been milled. We're waiting for the project, on the rest of the project on Durstein and the Force Main to complete before the final paving will occur. Residents have until the end of June to get the work completed for their curbs and sidewalks on Crestview and on Durstein where applicable. Sewer main on Durstein Avenue, that project has been completed. It went well with no issues. And then our contractor, SJM, jumped out to North Broad Street to do the Force Main work. As of Monday, they were 2/3 complete, and as of today, they're even further complete, and they should be done within a couple days on that. So I just want to applaud our engineer and also Dan and Rick and Chris actually in code to make sure that this project was expedited, because we were under a tight timeline to try and get this completed before PennDOT paving will occur on Broad Street, and I'll be talking about that soon. So we as a council, or we as a committee actually, are requesting to move to council payment request for $83,100.08 for work completed on Crestview and Durstein, mainly on Durstein, however. So that will be coming up in 2 weeks. As far as the 2017 CDBG application, there's nothing really further to report on that, where we won't hear back for a couple months on whether or not we receive that. So that will be removed from the agenda until we receive some new information. And same goes with the Knapp Road Bridge. We reached out to Montgomery, or we're going to reach out, I guess, to Montgomery Township. And once we hear something back from them regarding cooperation with roadway striping potentially, I won't be bringing that back up into the committee until we hear something from them, and then we'll decide what to do next with that on our end. Moving into the patch paving contract, there was only one bidder for that. There was a public bid. PK Moyer came back with that again. As we remember, this is a not to exceed $100,000, and they have until September 30th to get the paving work done. There's a list currently being worked on, a mental list. Some of the streets on there, I know North Chestnut Street from 7th to Oak Drive is on that list of roads to be done. We saw some photos from a resident today who came in to talk about the condition of that road, and it is in pretty bad shape, and all of us on the committee can agree to that. So that's definitely going to be looked at, as well as other sections. I know Walnut Street was part of it, Edgemont Ave part of it, Church Road part of it, Greenwood part of it. So there's the Public Works will be looking further into these streets and putting together a list to make sure that everything can get done as best to our ability and still being under that $100,000 threshold mark. On our agenda, there was the leaf vacuum truck. We did have some discussion about that, but what we want to do is try and get some bids for third-party leaf removal, and we'll hopefully get back to you with that. Until we hear something, I won't report anything further on that. As far as the wastewater treatment plant, Merck update. In March, 11.5 million gallons flowed through our plant from Merck, and that equates to about 371,000 gallons per day. Moving on to the Clean Water Partnership, Chris and Dan were at the last meeting, which was held at Upper Dublin Township Building. They hold these meetings the second Thursday of each month at 8:30 in the morning if you so desire to be a part of these meetings. They did choose a solicitor for it. It's Manco Gold, Catcher and Fox for this partnership, and a website is currently being developed, and there really isn't much further to talk about yet with that. Moving on to the MS4 TMDL plan, we're waiting for a proposal from AKRF for revising the TMDL plan. If we remember, we do have to make revisions to that plan, and most recently we just received a letter from the DEP kind of changing the rules a little bit, and that may have a significant impact on the revised TMDL plan. We do have until September 15th for that submission deadline for that. So more to come on that. As far as the Ridge Street pump station upgrade, work is being completed on Broad Street and should be finished up within the next couple days. Remainder of the upgrade is in design phase along with the pump station itself. Our budget, both at the wastewater treatment plant and Public Works, is tracking well, actually, normally and under in some cases. As far as old business, the Hometown Hero banner project, I'm sure many of us have noticed those going up on our borough-owned poles, and that's halfway completed, actually. And right now we only have about 80 banners. Is that correct? 80 banners to hang.
That's correct.
From the starting number was how many again, Rick? 413. We have 80 left. So and we've been doing this over about a week now, right? Getting these done. About a week. So with the help of our friends over at Mobile Lifts in Collegeville, we were able to get a bucket truck donated again to help us out with that, and we thank them for that donation. The target completion date to get these hung is by Memorial Day. I will note that all of the banners of service members killed in action are hung in Memorial Park currently. So those have been completed, and I think the remainder of it is on Broad Street, and where's the other area that needs to be done? North and South Broad and Hancock Street. And the park. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Moving on, in old business, there was a pre-construction meeting that Rick attended for Broad Street, for the Broad Street paving by PennDOT. We're looking for that to happen in the end of June and into July for paving work to be completed by Glasgow Construction. They are the contractor for that project. They're actually doing a larger project right now. We're a part of it. They're up in Red Hill and Pennsburg area and working their way down. And the portion of our Broad Street will be from Main Street out to the borough line, but that portion is actually going all the way out to Route 309 is what that project is. There will be nighttime milling and paving. So as Councilman Angelichio talked about the SEPTA parking lot paving, we are going to have milling and paving going on from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. along Broad Street, and there will be traffic issues, and I'm sure a lot of noise and complaints. So we'll try our best to make everybody aware when this will be happening, and making the residents and businesses aware that there might be some disruption. Moving on, Hancock Street, if some people have driven there on Broad near the Abyss Coffee and next to the credit union there, was paved at the intersection of Broad Street. And that portion is the portion that is currently now open part of the road. That is actually going to become concrete to cover over some conduit that was accidentally milled over. It was a rather shallow portion of that pavement, and it did affect some of the traffic signal for a little bit. Some people may have remembered. So happy driving over on Hancock Street. No more of the weaving around the trench and all that. It looks really good, and they did a good job. So thank you for that. As far as old business, that was it. There wasn't any new business, and in our public comment section, we had Ann Schuring with us and Ed, and Ann wanted to thank the Public Works crews for the Hometown Hero banners, and in addition, we also had a resident that did talk about Chestnut Street and the condition of that. So other than that, unless there are any questions from council?
Thank you.
As far as the Knapp Road pedestrian bridge goes, the signs, the signs that were put up
Correct.
saying use the pedestrian bridge, which is down the road a piece are being totally ignored. I spoke with several residents that were walking on there, and their comment to me, and this was general with all of them, was we thought that was for the school kids, not for us. So people are still out there pushing strollers across that bridge, walking their pets, or just walking around themselves or jogging. We still have a dangerous situation out there, and I think that we're going to have to really look into this and see what we can do about it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else for Public Works? All right. Thank you. Announcements to my left. Anybody? Yes, sir.
Just, I'd like to wish the North Penn Air Force Junior ROTC their armed inspection and armed drill team are competing in Daytona Beach under national recognition. Self-serving, of course. You know, my daughter's part of that team. So I hope they do well. They traveled safe. I know it was a long day today, but knowing those kids, they'll bring home a little bit of pride for this area.
Excellent. Anyone else to my left? All right. Nobody. You already had your turn. You have more? Oh, come on. All right. Go ahead.
Okay. In keeping with the weather theme, you can tell that I must be planning to be outside all weekend because the weather maybe won't cooperate. As many of you may know and may be signed up for, we have also, Discover Lansdale has a volunteer day scheduled at the Freight House Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We will keep everybody posted. Bill will be sending emails. And so if you volunteered to be there, unless you hear otherwise, still show up. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor.
Next Tuesday is the Lansdale Trivia Night for the Historical Society. So that should be an interesting one. I hear there's going to be lots of money wagered. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, and the other thing, not an announcement, but a comment, is that I was curious when the light in the bell tower was going to be fixed.
I know that something is on order, right? That's my understanding. I'm looking at Mr. Ernst longingly for an answer.
It's my understanding that the part has been received, and I believe Jason from our building maintenance crew will be coordinating with the electric department to get a bucket truck out to the location to get that coordinated. We're waiting on Andy.
Wow, way to throw yourself under the bus. Well done. Nice work. Yeah.
Andy, could I go up in the bucket truck?
I don't think that's OSHA certified. Okay. No, I don't think that. All right. Any?
Why don't you use him for the practice from the pole top?
There you go. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Do I have any other announcements to my right? I'm sure everybody wants to be here all night. All right. Any public comment this evening? You waited this long? No? Okay. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.